Hi, you guys. I have been thinking, I've been thinking about my life. I don't know, Lent is sort of a reflective time for me. And so I've been in this kind of reflective place. And I've been thinking about what my life was like before I went into private practice a long time ago, like over 17 years ago. So for some reason, that's been on my mind, and so I was thinking about that, and some of you know part of that story, but I had a job at an agency as a supervisor, and I had this fantastic boss, and he was just really helpful, and um, it was my first full time supervisor job. I had been a supervisor before, but it had been I was doing that part time and doing therapy part time, um, and then I had a part time clinical director job. But this was the first time that I was that was really my full time job as a supervisor. And he was just fantastic. He didn't have a clinical background, but he had a public administration background, and so he was really helpful. And then he ended up leaving and going to another state, and then I got this other just super good boss who was totally different background, but equally as good, and I learned a lot from him. And then there was this series of things that happened, and there was this time of kind of um, chaos, and then new management took over, and their philosophy and my philosophy and the philosophy of these two people I really liked as supervisors was pretty different. And so I had been thinking for months that I was really missing doing therapy. I had been there almost 3 years, and I was really missing doing therapy because I had always spent part of my work life as a therapist, or pretty much most of it. Um, and I wasn't doing any therapy, and I was really missing it. And but I had a team of people I supervised, and I had a couple of just super great people on my team. Really enjoyed working with them. Our families were great. It was a foster care agency, and but I was just missing doing therapy, and my philosophy and the philosophy of this new management was um, we were just getting more and more divergent. And so I was really thinking I needed to go back into private practice. I needed to, or at least find a therapy job. Um, but I was in the middle of my divorce, which went on for over 2 years, from the time my husband and I separated until it was final. And I got no child support. And so I felt like I needed my job to support myself and the kids. I needed my job for medical insurance, and I just didn't know what to do because I really was feeling more and more anxious about the situation that I was um, in this agency, because it was just getting more and more uncomfortable, more and more of not fitting at all. And but I just felt like, how can I leave this secure job as a single mom with no other means of support and no other way to get health insurance? And so I was just getting, so I had this belief that that I needed this job to support us. I needed this job for health insurance, and I needed this job for financial security. And but I was getting more and more anxious about the situation that I was in. It was just getting almost to the point of panic that I this just was not working. Um, but then something happened, and we agreed that the job was not, this agency and I were just no longer a fit. And so I had to do something. And so I started my private practice because there were no jobs. I first tried to find a job in my field, but there were none. And so I had this belief that I needed this job for financial security, I needed this job for insurance. But then when I didn't have this job, I had to figure out another way to have financial security. I had to figure out another way to have insurance. And so looking back, it was like I had this belief that I needed this job. But in reality, 14 months after I left this agency, I was making more money. I had way more flexibility. And I mean, was it scary? Absolutely, it was scary. But it really helped me think about, I had this false belief. I had this belief that I needed to have a job in order to have insurance and financial security. But the reality was, when I was in private practice, when I was in business for myself, I was able to have a practice that is beautiful. It is like it's wonderful. I love my clients. I have wonderful clients. I made more money and I had more flexibility, which as a single mom was something that you just can't replace that flexibility that you can have working for yourself. And so I tell you all that because I want you to look at your life and I want you to think about where are you, what beliefs are holding you back? What beliefs are artificial? How are you limiting yourself in an artificial way? And a lot of times it's because we are afraid, or at least for me, I'm afraid to leave my comfort zone. Because when we want to take our life to the next level of success, whether that be in going back to school or getting a promotion or starting a business or leaving an unhealthy relationship, it's because there's something about, even though it's not perfect and it may not even be good, it's what we know. And so we're afraid to leave our comfort zone to get something better. And so I want you to really think about your life and think about, even moving to a new house. I remember when I first separated, I was living in an apartment and it was a nice apartment, but I wanted a house with a yard for the kids. But moving from that apartment to our house, there was a period of chaos and discomfort when we had to pack everything into boxes and we had to then move everything out of that apartment and have the house filled up with boxes and chaos. And so often that happens when we go from our current level of success in our life, whether it be in career or in relationships, there is a period of discomfort. There is a period of we have to leave our comfort zone to take the next step. And it was wonderful to raise the kids in our house, in my house. In We had more room and they had a yard, but there was some things that were uncomfortable about it. I mean, it's more work to have a house than to have an apartment. And so often when we go to the next level of success in our life, there is a period of discomfort and there's even often a period of chaos while we reorganize our life to figure out how to take it to that next level, to when we meet that next goal that we want to have. There is that period. So I want to give you the encouragement that if you're wanting to make a big change in your life and if it feels scary, that's normal. um, Change can be scary, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it. um, is it going to be uncomfortable? Absolutely, it's going to be uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. There's a part of our brain, and its main job is amygdala, which is the reptilian part of our brain, and it is most concerned about our safety and not changing things. And so, if we're not careful, we let that part of our brain have control of our life, and we don't take that next step to have a better life because we're afraid to leave our comfort. But there's another part of our brain that's about problem solving and higher level reasoning. And if we let that part be in charge, we can come up with solutions. So before I left my job and started my private practice, that the reptilian part, which basically it wants to avoid getting eaten by the predators. That's like the amygdala's job. That's the reptilian part of the brain's job. Um, but once my comfort left me, I had to figure it out, and so I had to focus on problem solving. Okay, here's the situation. What am I going to do, and how am I going to do it? And so if there's a change that you want to make and it's scary, just know that that's that part of your brain that's trying to protect you. But take a few deep breaths and let that other part of the brain come forward and focus on what you can do. Not like well, all the terrible things that could happen, but what are the possibilities and how can you make this work? And so, oftentimes when we think we can't do anything, it's because we're believing those false limiting beliefs. And so, I'm, I'd love for you to share in the comments. Is there a time when you did that, when you let those false limiting beliefs have control? And how did you deal with it? All right. Have a great rest of your weekend and talk to you again soon.